just rolling with it.
Get into some stuff. And I know we've had some interesting conversations, and you have some interests that are fun.
Well, we were talking that day that we met back at Starbucks a long time ago. That's been a while.
Yeah, probably a year.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, I think so. Right thereabouts. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we were talking about like space and like, you know what I mean? That kind of, there's a gnat in here, like astrology and that kind of stuff. And you said you were really into that. And when I told Jeff that, he got real excited. And I mean, that's like, he's all about that kind of stuff. And
I don't know a lot about it. I'm just into it.
Well, I kind of feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say that I read a lot about it, but I don't know that I understand much of it. So,
well, that's okay. I don't think we ever would understand much of that kind of stuff anyway.
What have you read? What have you read that's interests you most, or what are you reading? Is there anything that off the top of your head that you would suggest, or that you think's an interesting read?
I think anything by have you heard of Brian Greene?
I don't think so.
Okay, so he's a physicist, and he works at, I think, Columbia University. I might be wrong on that, but he's written a couple books that have really kind of laid out physics in a way that's graspable for people who are new to it or who are novices at it.
Uh-huh.
I just started his book, The Elegant Universe, which was the first one that he wrote. And he kind of explains like how time is malleable, how time is not experienced the same by everyone, which is kind of a mind blower. And I don't really get that yet, but
yeah,
it's very interesting to think about. Like you'll read a section of one of his books, and then you'll have to take like 45 minutes and just think about it before you can move on. So they take dedication if you want to finish them and sort of grasp the concepts of them.
See, that stuff is fascinating to me, because I'll listen to podcasts with either physicists in it or even neurologists, just different people talking about our brains and about the physics and physiology. It's like that right there. Just when they start to get into explaining how time really works, especially like just getting into, and I'm really dumb about it. Like you said, this guy'd probably be perfect, David Greene.
Yeah, Brian Greene, yeah.
I'm sorry, Brian Greene. See, I can't even get his name right. But but for me, when I hear stuff that, like, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy was talking about like the difference between our consciousness and our dream state, and how thin of a line there is between the two, that really, can we even comprehend that we're not, are we in a dream like right now almost?
Right.
But it's that close, which he didn't go on and on about it. But for me, I was like, man, I want to hear more about this. I want to know and understand, because it's true. If you have lucid dreams, it's like, it's real.
Yeah, or at least it feels like you're experiencing them from the point of reality, which kind of makes you question what is reality. Is it what we're experiencing now? Is it, what we're in the, like you said, the dream state? Are you familiar at all with, either one of you, with simulation theory? Have you guys looked into that at all?
Yes.
He knows more about that stuff than I do, but do share.
Brian, yes.
Well, simulation theory, just at its bare bones, I guess, the best way that I could explain it is that there's a likelihood that if it is possible to achieve simulations at such a complex state, that we could potentially be in a simulation now. So in other words, what we're experiencing is real from our perspective, but it could be the simulation of intelligent beings of a higher state.
That's so weird to me. That creeps me out.
I've listened to a lot of stuff on that, and it blows my mind, because that's exactly kind of the stuff that I was wondering if you thought about, because the last thing, I don't know why his name's escaping me right now, but a guy I love to listen to, he cracks me up. He was just on Joe Rogan, and he gets into all this stuff, man, deep. Of course, they'll do psychedelics, and that's why they.
Well, I mean,
But that's where it comes from. Like they realize it takes them to a place that they can't get to mentally, right? It opens up parts of your brain that you can't get to, and lets you experience things that I'd like to give it a shot. I think I'd like to give it a shot.
No.
We'll take just
It's all
to see
right.
what it's.
Rogan talks a lot about DMT.
Yes.
Are you
Yeah.
a Roganer?
Oh yes, 100%.
Oh gosh.
That's where we connected. That's where we connected on the Rogan level.
You and Jeff could go.
Well, then you know what I'm
days.
talking about, and I can't remember him.
Well, he talks about that with so many different people.
He does.
It's almost hard to keep track.
Who was on there recently, and I can't believe it because I listened to his actual podcast. This guy, and I was just telling Ange that this guy would be a guy that you would know right off the bat.
Is it? It's not Duncan Trussell, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The most recent one with him is crazy throughout the 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I cruised through that one. It was wild. But Duncan, I love Duncan Trussell. I don't know why. He just has
he's great.
vibe.
He just seems like such a cool, down to earth dude, I think.
Yeah. But he's so out there too at the same time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. I didn't realize like he's married and has a kid and all that. Like I didn't know until his most recent one, because normally they don't talk so much about family. It's more about wider concepts of, universe and multiverse and the things that we're talking about right now. So, but yeah, I think the most mind blowing thing from that most recent conversation that they had was how he talked about like he feels like decisions that you make would potentially put you in different places in the multiverse. Like we exist in all these other universes, and then as you make a decision, you jump from one to the next to the next to the next.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's the stuff that I get. It interests me, but then I'm like, you need to slow down. I need more.
Yeah.
I need more detail, and you're gonna have to give me time to let it process, because that's fascinating stuff, because the multiple dimension thing, it blows your mind. If you don't like dig into it at all, like you're reading and you find it interesting, and I always dismissed it because I'm like, it's silly. But then the more I'm listening to these people talk and give fact and base, and then they get these guys from these universities that are very educated and study it, and they start explaining how time works and how different things work, and you go, well, I want to hear a little more about this.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I think this has to do with this kind of stuff. Can you explain like deja vu? What are your thoughts on that? You know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
Do you have any opinions on that?
Deja vu is a weird one, because I think that's one that we all sort of can relate to each other. Like we've all been in that spot where like, oh wow, it just suddenly comes over you that I've been in this place before.
Yeah.
And I've experienced this exact thing right here. Like it feels like I was just there and now I'm there for real. Right.
Yeah.
That one's kind of beyond me, because I don't know if it's just one of those psychological things where because that's another thing too. Like you were talking about neuroscience earlier, Jeff, and, maybe it's just that certain connections in our brain, certain neurons in our brain fire within a specific sequence. And that's when we experience things that are similar to things we thought we experienced before. So maybe it's just that same set of synapses firing. I don't know enough about the brain to know whether has any place within reality. Just from a physical law standpoint, that's certainly feasible. Right. There's this thing that, have you heard of Sean Carroll?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sean Carroll's another one. He's very big in like the podcast realm, and he's been on Rogan's show a few times. But he talks about Laplace's demon. Have you ever heard of that?
I think I've heard him talk about it, but I don't know how much, because I haven't listened to him in a while. I know I have his podcast downloaded as well. I've listened to
I think his is called Mindscape, and he talks about a variety of different things. He doesn't just purely stick to physics on his, but he's got a great podcast. But Laplace's demon is essentially like the universe is mapped out in a certain way. And if we could figure out the exact place of every particle within the universe right now, then we would be able to both determine the future and the past.
What?
Because then we could anticipate where those things are going to move and where they've been. So again, probably a poor explanation, but that's essentially the idea, is that if we knew where the position of every molecule and every state of matter is right now, that we would essentially be able to predict everything that's ever happened and everything that ever will happen.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
See, I just don't think this deep. I'm a very basic, just like, I don't think about, I've never even heard of some of this stuff before. I mean, Jeff will tell me some stuff that you guys are talking about that you listen to on Joe Rogan and everything. And it's like, whoa, way over my head, you know?
Yeah, I was talking to you about all of it really in multiple dimensions, and just some of that Duncan Trussell podcast I was trying to talk to her about, but she just glazes over and doesn't really want to talk about it.
If there's one thing he could change about me, well, I'm sure there's many things he could change about me.
Change it.
But I think you would make me a Joe Rogan lover, and you would make me want to be interested in every single thing that you're interested in, because I'm not.
Well, just so you know, that glazing over is the normal response.
Okay.
Right.
Woo,
especially if I'm talking about it, because I'm so uneducated.
No, you're not. Stop saying that. You are not.
I am when it comes to that.
Yeah, but I mean,
have a hard time regurgitating what they say.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah.
And I don't understand most of it. It's just like the concept blows my mind. Like the one you just talked about. It's like, that just blows my mind, but it would be very difficult for me to talk about it unless I really spend a lot of time.
So what is your most interest in this type of, what interests you the most about all of this stuff? I don't know what to even call it. Stuff.
God, that's a hard one. I think probably the thing that is touched upon in everything that I read and listen to, and that is an overarching theme, is whether there's life elsewhere.
Yes.
Like that's the one that I think is the most interesting, and probably will be the most difficult for us to ever know for sure.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think with as vast as everything is, that it's inevitable almost. Inevitable is probably a bad word, but I feel like it's so incredibly likely with how many, there's 100 billion stars in our galaxy. And there's 100 billion galaxies at least that they know of. So you think all those stars, the majority of which have planets, like at some point, I think it was Adam Frank who said, all of these planets are places where things can happen.
Right.
That's the simplest way that I've been able to think about it. And I just think you don't even really have to be optimistic to believe that. I think it's so vast that's not to say that there's things like us, that there's people necessarily, but I think is there a planet out there that's a water world that is ruled by dolphins or something? Sure. I mean, why wouldn't there be?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is for sure. I think when you look, like, 30 years ago, what do we know about space?
Right.
That there's a dozen planets maybe? And now,
well, I mean, essentially all the bodies in our solar system, and that was it.
Yes. And now they're talking about there's how many planets that are just like Earth out there, the potential. I mean, billions. I mean, it's crazy. So they're not saying that there's life form on those, but there's a place where there could be life form if everything's, perfect, which when you start taking the odds of billions of planets or stars, the odds get pretty good that there could be some minnows somewhere.
Sure.
Or something, some mutation of life. So it's interesting now that they can prove that there's so much out there beyond what we can even fathom. But,
yeah, it's very strange. One of the things I like, and then I'm invoking this from a different subject that he talked about, but Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about how rare supernova are. Do you know what supernova are?
I don't.
Yes, I'm not. I need brushed up a little bit. Explain it, especially for anyone that's going to be listening, because I've listened and heard it explained, but I could not probably regurgitate it.
So a supernova is where there's a star that's much more massive than the sun. It burns through its fuel quicker, and it explodes. That's how it dies. It explodes in a massive, explosion that blows gas and matter out that eventually is recycled and forms another star, multiple stars, and forms planets and all that. So it's this sort of big recycling of a particular ball of matter. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, in his or not opinion, but in his instance, he was talking about how supernova are rare. They're so rare that they happen 8 times a week in the universe. But that's rare because of how big the universe is. Them happening thereabouts once a day is very, very rare. And that's just in our observable universe. That's not beyond the horizon of what we can actually see that probably exists beyond that.
Uh-huh.
So when he talks about that, I think that's a good way to sort of relate the math of how likely it is that there's life elsewhere too. If you look at a supernova and you say, wow, that's super rare, but it happens once a day, once an hour a day, then if you extrapolate the billions and trillions of stars and planets and all that, then there has to be at least microbes or something. And there's a good chance that there are microbes on even Mars, our closest planet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think that there's a large chance that there's life elsewhere. Is there people? I don't know. Is there intelligent life? I don't know. And then when you start thinking about, like, one of the reasons that we're here is that we have the moon that we have, and that Jupiter sort of absorbs a lot of the comets and meteorites that would otherwise devastate life as it has before here. When you start thinking about it in that context, because in a lot of solar systems beyond ours, that Jupiter is much closer, or what is a gas giant planet is much closer to its star than ours is. So our solar system is sort of a rarity in that regard, because Jupiter sort of acts as our bodyguard against a lot of these impacts that would otherwise take us out, like it did dinosaurs or any other, form of life that's dominated the planet over our history.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that we now have that proof that that's what happened. That a comet or something hit, and I forget where exactly it is that they discovered it. The impact. Where was that? Was it
the Yucatan? Is that what it was? The Yucatan
might have been.
Peninsula.
It might. Yeah, I think it was. But it's isn't it underwater or it's under something? I don't know. They found it.
I can't remember.
But it just was fascinating when I did discover that, when I was listening to some podcast and they were talking about that. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. And was it that one that wiped out I know there's something that also one that hit, just the devastation that can be brought so quickly and take out our population by either a comet or Yellowstone erupting.
Yeah,
right?
Yellowstone's a freaky one too.
That fascinates me. I never knew that if that thing erupts, we're done.
Yeah,
we're
gone.
We're done. It's due, right? It hasn't erupted. It erupts every, what was it? Is it 600,000 years? Or is that, I think way off?
That might be the one that, you might be right. I get all these numbers mixed up from these different catastrophic events that happen. But there's that, and then there's one that states that there's an extinction level event that happens on Earth like once every 25 to 50 million years or something like that, and we're due for that from what they can tell. So there are a lot of things that are in that realm that it looks like, if the predictions are correct, that we're headed toward at some point, which is why a lot of these guys like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and a lot of the billionaires want to start going to space to try to colonize or like terraform Mars or, stuff like that, to start exploring those particular options that we might have.
Maybe have a plan B.
Yeah. But the thing is, and this is another thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson says all the time, is that we've only been to the moon a few times, and it's been 50 years since we did that. So, to think that we're just going to all of a sudden plant a colony of 1 billion people on Mars or whatever is somewhat far-fetched at this point, I think.
And there's still the conspiracy. Did we even go?
Right.
Right. Do you buy into that conspiracy at all?
Generally speaking, I'm not a huge conspiracy person. I think we probably were on the moon, and that's I like Neil deGrasse Tyson's argument for that, is that we were sort of in competition during the Cold War with Russia at that point to go to space and there was sort of a national pride in doing so. So there was a different sort of motivation for doing it then than there is now. I think our priorities are probably different now than they were then.
Jeff, when he was a little boy, he wanted to be an astronaut.
Really? I did not know that.
He had a book with all the plans in it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably worth some money now.
Yeah, it might be if I could just find it. me and my cousin, that was our dream. But then I realized one day that I couldn't deal with when I rode roller coasters, that my stomach couldn't handle roller coasters. So my dreams were crushed because I thought I'll never get through space camp.
Not off to a good start.
No.
So he let me know that I wasn't going to make it through the dizzy tests.
So did he want to do it too?
Yeah, he did. He did. We wanted to do it, and then we grew up and realized that we weren't going to do it, I guess. But
well, I wanted to be quarterback for the Raiders, but then I only got to 5'9", so it didn't work out.
Drew Brees isn't much bigger.
We all wanted to do something when we were little that was just so out there and never probably happened for most of us. I wanted to be a Barbie doll. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up, is a Barbie doll. I thought that you could do that. That's how dumb I was as a kid. I was like, yeah, you can do that.
We go from
I don't think I've ever heard of anybody when they were a kid aspiring to be an inanimate object.
I know, right? I'm talking the first thing I can remember thinking, the first thing I can remember thinking I wanted to be was that. Obviously, when I got a little bit older, I was like, well, that's dumb. You know what I mean? And that's when I decided I think I wanted to do something on television, which that didn't happen either. So, my dreams were crushed.
So now we've gone from supernovas to being a Barbie doll.
Yeah. All in one podcast.
That's what makes it great. The spectrum, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Definitely the
Sorry,
spectrum.
I got off topic, but you just wanted to be an astronaut. So.
Well, one thing that I think is interesting, because this will sort of bring it to what Angie and I do for a profession, is that in space, do you know that you lose 1% of your bone mass per month?
No, I did not know this.
Yes, that's why when astronauts go up now, when they're spend extended time in the space station or anything like that, they are required to strength train every day.
Wow. See, now I can't go to space. I can't lose my mass.
Yeah. I know. Work too hard for it, right, Angie?
Otherwise, I would have gone.
Did you say bone or muscle?
Yeah, bone density. Yeah.
Bone density.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Well,
okay. I'll go.
Yeah, but they require that you perform resistance training every day up there.
Oh wow.
Apparently, from what I've heard, I don't know for sure, but I've heard that it's more low rep, high weight strength.
Well, I mean, you could
maintain.
I mean, theoretically, you could really lift heavy in space, right?
Yeah, I would think so. But I'm sure they have, especially like in the space station, I'm sure they have some sort of gravity equalizer, I would think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. That was something I didn't really think about, how you would lift weights in space.
Yeah, you would have to have
an equalizer.
Yeah.
They have to have something to make you so you could resistance train.
That's very interesting.
That's wild that every month it diminishes.
Yeah. I think it's 1% per month, I believe. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Because we're not supposed to be in space.
Right. Yeah, that's
point
we were born here for a reason, right?
That's right.
Valid point.
But I'm glad somebody's doing it.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So what about aliens? What do you think about aliens?
Well,
Let me turn it around. Do you think we've been visited?
Oh,
I like that.
I like that. Well, what's wrong with my question?
I don't know. I was just trying to figure out the life out there in aliens. Aren't they the same thing, kind of?
No, I'm talking.
You mean like the green ones with the
I'm
ears?
talking like literally like aliens. Do I think we've been visited? I don't know. Yeah. I would like to say yes because I think it would be very interesting. But I don't know that I would buy into it. Unless you can convince me otherwise.
I don't think I could. It would have to be, I think, because there's really no evidence for it. So it would have to be something that can be here and not be traced, right?
Right.
Which means it would have to be far more advanced than we are.
True.
Yeah. So there is the theory out there that maybe something has sent a probe to our solar system and can observe us in relative obscurity, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
And that there's this sort of like galactic network of intelligence, and you have to reach a certain point before you can join it. I think that's probably the most interesting theory. I don't know how much I buy into that, but it's certainly fun to think about.
But as far as a UFO landing and some Martian getting out and abducting people, that's
I wouldn't think so. No.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's for the movies.
Well,
those are again probably people who've done a lot of psychedelics.
Yes.
Yeah, but this goes along with the kind of like what you're saying is it very much so interests me, and it goes along with the higher intelligence and the simulation thought process too.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you've got something that's way more intelligent, much more functional, knows what they're, you know what I mean, and then can watch us. That's interesting. Or we could be in a simulation.
Yeah, the simulation. What was fun is to listen to. I think his name is Nicholas Backstrom. If you get a chance to listen to him on Rogan's podcast, or maybe it might be Bostrom. I think it's Bostrom. But he did like the pioneering work or some of it on simulation theory, and his argument is that there's a very large likelihood that we're in a simulation now, because once you can make one simulation, then you can make not an infinite number, but a very, very large number. And that is obviously going to outnumber the odds of us being in the original one.
So are you saying, okay, I know we talked about this before, but I got to wrap my mind around it. So when you say a simulation, Jeff has a smirk on his face like you're getting ready to say something really stupid.
No, I'm
aren't
not.
You?
It's cute, but I'm a little nervous. I'm nervous because I'm hoping Matt will jump in, because I'm not gonna. You're looking at me, and I'm not going to be able to answer your question.
No, and nobody has to answer it. I'm just curious. When you say simulation, so you're saying that we're being controlled by someone or something else?
Not necessarily controlled, but that our environment is being, I have to be careful here because the terms you use can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
That our environment is being replicated on a large scale, and that there are all these different outcomes that are taking place in these various simulations that we're a part of. So we're a part of one simulation, but, we might exist somewhere else where, everything is exactly the same, or where there's something that's slightly different. Maybe I have the microphone and you don't, or just something like that. Ooh. Where there's all of this large, massive simulations.
Is there a movie on this anywhere?
I don't know. Is there, Jeff? I'm not a huge movie guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not either. I don't know.
Could somebody make a movie so I could understand it a little bit better?
I need to get this down in like 2 hours.
Yeah. It is fascinating, because it's, to think of it like, maybe if you look at it on this table, you've got us here doing our life the way we're doing it, but then we're over here too, and our life's exactly the same, but now in this life, something's like you said, slightly different. Like maybe we're extremely successful.
Maybe we're rich over here.
Or maybe
can I go live with them?
Or maybe in this simulation we're happy and we live together forever. Maybe in this one it's a divorce or something.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
See, somebody needs to do a movie. Needs to be a movie.
And then there's another one over here though.
Get spilled.
And in this one we just don't have any kids.
Right. I could go.
Or maybe
somewhere
we don't have a pet. I don't know. Or maybe you're a dog lover and a pet lover in this simulation.
Now you're
not
talking
in
crazy.
The one we live in right now.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Maybe that explains some of my dreams that I have. I have crazy dreams, Matt.
I'm with you on that. I've been having a lot of crazy dreams since this whole thing started.
You're a dreamer as well?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I rarely remember my dreams.
Really?
Yes. I rarely remember.
I remember them a
She
lot, and
remembers
they're
hers,
crazy.
they're all like, she's been having a reoccurring dream,
Yeah.
and things change just a little bit. Huh? What a coincidence. Maybe
Huh.
maybe in a simulation. Maybe you're in another dimension in your dream.
It is a really strange dream.
Change.
I've had it twice over this time period, kind of. Well, maybe a little bit before, and then once the other night. But the other night, it progressed just ever so slightly. It's really weird. Same people are in the dream. Some of them I know and recognize, like Jeff, and a few of that. Most of them I don't. But it's the same people. Like I like in my dream, and I can feel myself saying, "Oh, it's you guys again." But I don't know who they are. I've never seen them before in my life, but only in my dream.
So you
Weird.
only know them from the dream.
Yeah. If I saw them out in public, I would
From another dimension.
I would die. No, can you imagine? Because they're very distinct looking. Like he is a guy with a mustache only, which is weird to me. I
Sure.
am not a mustache only kind of girl. But so, I mean, you do you, but whatever. But so that's him. And then she is like a very beautiful redhead. He's clearly out of his league with her, but they're clearly together at the same time.
So are they trying to communicate anything to you in this dream, or are you just an
Yes.
observer? Okay.
He doesn't talk to me because we're in a pizza place, kind of like Pies and Pints, but it's family style seating. So you like sit all at the same table, kind of like picnic table type style,
Okay.
right? There's no like separate tables. So I sit by him. Jeff goes and sits by her. So Jeff and I can be across from each other. He's drinking a beer. Well, his beer's almost empty. He has a full beer, or kind of partly drinking beer. Anyway, these college-age girls walk by, go into the bathroom, come out giggling. He calls them over. He puts his beers together, like pours the empty one in, and hands it to the girls. Like, here, do you want my beer? And she's like, oh, thanks. And so that makes the redhead lady mad. And she looks at me and she was like, when I get to the point where I say, I've had enough and I'm leaving, don't let me leave because I really don't want to leave. And I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know her. And so they get into a fight because she's mad because he gave the girls the beer. And she goes, that's it. I'm leaving. I'm like, no. You're not supposed to leave. You don't want to leave. You don't really want to leave. And then she gets mad at me and says, don't tell me what to do. You don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, that's basically it.
I told her it was God letting her experience women.
Oh, there's one other weird thing.
I like that take.
Yes, right. One other weird thing. I'm drinking my beer. I'm drinking a beer as well, but I'm using a straw.
Okay.
It really ticks Jeff off that I'm using a straw. That's all I got. I don't know what to make of it.
Do you ever use a straw in real life when you drink a beer?
No.
I was going to say that would be kind of a social faux pas.
No, I use a straw for a lot of drinks, but not a beer. But so it's just really weird. The guy never talks to me. I only communicate with her. Jeff doesn't talk to either of them. He's just there. I don't even really communicate with Jeff. It's just the lady looks at me very intently. It's like, when I get to the point where I say, I've had enough and I want to leave, don't let me leave. I don't really want to leave. So it's weird. Anyway, maybe that should be a part of our movie.
Yes. That would work well within the multiverse concept, I think.
Multiverse?
Yeah.
Okay. we could write a movie, the three of us. So what is one of your craziest dreams, Matt, if you're comfortable sharing?
I don't really feel like I have crazy dreams because most of the time I'm not a participant in them. Normally my dreams are just me observing
Really?
whatever's taking place in the dream. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sort of, the weird ones are when you're in the dream and you feel consciously aware that you're present, and and then when you wake up, you're sort of taken aback. And I'm assuming that's what your dream is like, where you feel like you're there and that it's happening.
Yes. Because I specifically thought the time I dreamed this, which was just a few nights ago, I was like, these people again, like I felt that. But my dream went a little further that time, where Jeff brought me a Diet Coke and said, this is an appropriate drink to drink a straw with, Angie, and handed it to me. And I proceeded to spill it on my pants. Only that time did I see the pants I was wearing. And it's a pair of yoga pants that I don't feel comfortable wearing because it shows all of my cellulite. It's really weird. I don't know.
Are they a real pair of pants that you have? Or okay,
they're real. So I'm thinking I should wear those pants to bed and see
That's
if I
what
can.
said. last night.
See if I can summons anything.
You're going to break the simulation, Angie. You're not supposed to do that.
Do not break the simulation.
And the whole world will start
Yeah.
shaking and rattling.
Yep,
You'll set off Yellowstone.
that's right.
You'll set off the
So
And then we'll all have to come back again and do it all again till we get it right.
maybe it would get rid of Corona if I did it. Maybe that's
It probably would, yeah.
well, that's a theory. That's
maybe the redhead's Corona.
See, I was wondering if maybe so go with me on this because this is totally crazy.
Okay.
I was thinking where she comes over and tells you, don't let me leave,
Right.
even though I'm going to say that I want to leave.
Right.
That's kind of a metaphor for the quarantine, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's just something that's been on your mind a lot, and it's, metamorphosis is taking place in your brain while you sleep.
Maybe. I'm going to wear the peach pants tonight to bed, and we're going to wake
should
up
do
and
it.
it's going to all be gone.
I need to know what's going to happen.
we'll wake up in a different light.
Yeah.
But the only thing that'll be normal is her pants.
That's right.
I
She's
know.
going to still be wearing those pants.
She'll
Exactly.
still be wearing the pants. Yeah.
Now, stuff like that does fascinate me, like dreams, dream states, what's actually going on in your mind and your subconscious, kind of like you said, in your dreams, you're kind of like just taken back and observing, where a lot of times I'm very much in my dreams.
Right.
And Jeff said, he mentioned this the other day, the theory of, who knows if this is true, that if you wake up in the middle of the night suddenly, that means you're in somebody's dream. Have you ever heard that?
I think I've heard that before. Yeah, but that's interesting.
Yeah, because I'm in a lot of people's dreams then, because I wake up all the time.
Well, it also could mean you have a full bladder.
I could just need to go to the bathroom.
Yes, that's usually why I wake up.
That's why I wake
It could be storming and the trees are about to hit my house like the other night. And Jeff slept.
Yeah.
Anyway, very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff.
I think it's interesting. I think the simulation and the the multiverse and the what we were just talking about, you got into, and then we kind of people visiting us, not necessarily visiting us, but being able to observe us without being here. Because what I was going to say is the whole thing about all these people with abductions, isn't it like a ridiculous percentage of the people who have ever been abducted or claimed to be abducted? It's been during sleeping hours.
Yeah.
It's like
It's always at night.
Yeah, it's like 99% of the time. It's always at night. So, I mean, what they do leading up to going to sleep, what they drink, what they eat, what they take, because you can have some really whacked out dreams that make you think. And then if they have a need to be heard, of course, that could be part of it too. But
as far as abduction, like Stranger Things style, do you watch Stranger Things?
Oh, yes. Love that show.
Me too. That is a little far-fetched to me. You're not talking about that type of visit.
No, I don't think there's any malicious being trying to infiltrate our dimension or our reality. I can't see why that would be necessary.
Right.
Because I guess from what I've read from scientists I respect, any being that would need to come here to take over our planet and has the means to get here could probably get whatever they needed from some other planet on the way. Unless it was, from somewhere in our solar system, which is not likely that there are any beings like that are that advanced.
Right. But man, it does make for a good television show, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think, especially with TV shows and movies and, things like Interstellar, if you've seen Interstellar, I just watched that not too long ago.
I haven't seen that.
I've heard about it. I haven't got to see it yet.
That's an excellent movie, but the science is far-fetched in it to a large degree. I mean, they're traveling through wormholes and, they're around black holes and stuff like that. But obviously we want to make everything that are in movies, we want to make it people-centric so that way we can relate to it,
Right.
So I think that's why stuff like Stranger Things is so fascinating to us.
It's very fascinating to me.
Is.
I'm not normally a fan of like sci-fi at all, but for some reason, and I don't know if it's the era they had it set in, got me, like back in the 80s or whatever it was, 70s, 80s, whatever it was. I don't know if that's what sucked me in or what, but I just said, yeah, I think I will give this show a try. And normally, and like he was shocked. He was like, what? You're going to watch this? You don't watch stuff like that. And I think it was Anna, actually, Anna Wheeler, that got me into watching it. And I do love it. Now was that the last season?
Which one?
This past one that was just
it's where they're in the mall.
That's the last season?
Yeah.
No, I think there's going to be another season.
Is there?
No. Oh, you're asking me if there's going to be another season.
Yeah, I phrased that wrong. There's going to be another one.
Yeah, they've already. I think they've already filmed it. There's already a trailer out.
I'm sorry, I phrased it wrong. I said, was that the last one? I know. Okay, yeah. No. I'm looking forward to that then.
I never. I like sci-fi stuff, but I never watched that until Steph got me into it.
Yeah.
She got me into watching it, and she doesn't like sci-fi at all.
Yeah,
but she got obsessed with it. She was like, "Oh, you have to watch this show. They're coming out with a new season and all that." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." Because I'm just not. I like documentaries and stuff, but I don't watch a lot of TV. Yeah. Like I can name on one hand how many series I've actually finished.
Me too. I'm really not much of a. I mean, I do like to watch TV. I do, but normally it's definitely not sci-fi. Normally, if I'm going to watch something on TV, it's got to make me laugh, or I'm not interested. I'm not a big fan of documentaries. Jeff is. I'm not a fan of dramas, action. I just like to laugh because, I always say all the time, life isn't serious enough as it is. And if I'm going to have my spare time, you're going to have to be making me laugh.
Yeah, I definitely get that.
Yeah.
There's going to be a great documentary coming out April 19th. I don't know if you're aware of this. It's going to be on ESPN, though.
Oh, the Bulls?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so hyped.
Are you ready for
Bulls.
That? Oh, yeah. April 19th. It's coming out. They're letting it out early. It's going to be great. I cannot wait.
10 parts from what I've seen.
10-part series.
The Bulls as in the Chicago Bulls?
Yes, Jordan's the 1998 season, right? I think it's the 1998 season, the final run, their last chance.
So is it just going to – I'm sure they'll cover the history, but it's just going to be mainly about 98?
I think so. That's what I gathered from the trailer.
10 episodes just over the 1 year?
No, it won't be just over. It'll be about so much going on in their dynasty. I'm sure they'll cover it all. But I think that's where they got all that footage. Was that really his last year? They got a ton of footage, but I cannot wait.
That's going to be great.
It will be phenomenal.
That's going to take place of March Madness. Like normally March Madness, I lose, Jeff. You know what I mean? I don't have a husband until it's over. Well, that was not happening this year. So I guess when that series comes out, I'll lose you. But it's on ESPN, so you can't binge watch it.
Yeah, it's something you can binge watch, I think.
Oh, so they release all the.
Well, I have ESPN Plus, so I think it just is on there.
So they release it all.
You think they'll just release all episodes?
Well, no, I don't think they'll release them all, but I think once they're done releasing them, I think they'll be available to watch.
Gotcha.
So it'll be something I'll probably watch every week. I'll be ready to watch.
So back to my original statement, you won't be able to really binge watch it.
not up front.
Not up front because we know he's going to watch it again. So you're going to watch it on
That's right.
like a normal person, and then you'll go turn around and probably turn right around and binge watch it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm definitely like that with those like 30 for 30 ESPN films.
Yeah.
They're excellent. If you love sports, they're excellent.
They're so good.
I'm not huge into sports, like watching sports. I'm not anti-sports. I mean, I like it, okay, but I even like watching those sometimes because.
Well, they tie you in and they make them more interesting for everybody rather than just being a sporting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sports is really, even though it's kind of what makes the documentary possible for ESPN films, it's always about things other than the sport.
Right.
Things that are going on behind the scenes in the locker room or, in the front office or whatever.
I think that's what pulls me in. It's not.
Yeah, they're all very human stories.
Yes.
Yes. She's.
I'm sure I'll watch it. It's not like I'm not going to watch it with you. I'm going to
watch it.
It sounds like it's a deal breaker if I don't watch it. Jeez.
So did you guys, on this topic, did you guys watch the OJ documentary that ESPN came out with a few years ago?
No.
I did.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
That thing is like labor intensive, 7 hours.
It was a lot. It took forever. It was a lot of watching. because when I watch stuff by myself, it's just whenever whenever I can watch it. Usually, if she's passed out at night and I'm still up for another 2 hours, those are the things I'll click on because I know she doesn't really have much interest.
No.
But yeah, that was labor intensive. You're right. I even tried to watch the one on FX, but I couldn't do it.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like, I
I
don't
never-
want to have to feel like I'm working to watch something. I want to be able to relax and chill out and laugh.
What was cool about that though is I remember it because I'm old
Yeah.
enough. I remember watching it.
Same
And
here. Yeah.
Where you all, so it's kind of that takes you back. Just
Yeah, I think I was 6 when it happened, and I just remember sitting there in the living room with my parents were just glued to the TV,
Yeah.
and I didn't really know what was going on, but I still have that image of the news channel with the chyron at the bottom that said, OJ in the white Bronco, and then you see the police chase.
yeah.
And it's just such a, like, for our generation, it's such a weirdly iconic moment.
Yeah.
Because everybody who was alive then and was old enough to remember it will talk to you about it forever.
Oh, yeah. And you can remember where you were. I mean, I remember I was in a hotel room with my family. We were in Orlando getting ready to pick you up in Daytona to go to Disney World with us or go somewhere with us in
It was
Florida.
Disney, I
Disney.
think.
Yeah. And I
Wow.
remember, I mean, you can remember just like 9/11, you can remember exactly where you were and what
Yeah.
you were doing, almost to what you were wearing when big events like that happen.
I knew exactly where I was when they told me to go home from work during the coronavirus.
and that feels like it's been 20 years ago.
I know.
Yes, it
I know.
does.
I'm ready to. How are you? Are you working out at home?
I mean, not really working out at home. We've been going on walks a lot. I still get
Okay.
in resistance training when I can, but it's kind
Yeah.
of touch and go, right? What are you doing for it?
Yeah. We have some equipment in the basement. We will go to the basement, work out, or when it's nice out, we'll take the equipment outside and lift. I mean, we don't have heavy weights, but we just up the reps and, do what you can. Like you said, body weight stuff and just lots of reps. So
We have kettlebells and battle ropes.
yeah. I have
So
a,
we
do you
can-
remember Kettlebell John? You knew who he was, right?
Yeah. John Friend.
Yeah. Yes, John Friend. I call him Kettlebell John. I have his well, not technically wife, but wife and Sydney, they gave me some of his stuff to take care of till otherwise notified. So I have some of his stuff in my basement as well. So we've been putting that to use. So we're making it, I guess. But I'm ready to get back into the gym, but at the same time, I'm kind of enjoying my time right now. I'm not under the circumstances,
Sure.
like not to make light of it, but like to reconnect time with your family and like slowing down has been kind of nice. Again, I don't like the circumstances that it's under. But yeah, slowing down is kind of nice.
Yeah, I definitely think there are positive things to take away from it.
Sure.
I think this has shown people that some of the things that maybe we think are super important and can't possibly be done without, that those things can kind of be done without when push comes to shove. you
Right.
know? And I hope that once everything does start sort of leaning back into normalcy, that we don't lose sight of that, because this is good in some way. Like it's as good as we want to make it,
Right.
Obviously it's sad and it's horrifying. And, I've had my instances every now and then where I get super anxious because there's so much uncertainty, but, it's nice when we go out and walk and you see other people who are out walking and, just being active in ways that I think a lot of people otherwise wouldn't be.
Right.
And it's taken us back to a point of simplicity. I saw this great picture of Los Angeles recently, and normally Los Angeles is like covered with smog.
Right.
And where nobody's been on the road, it's totally clear.
Wow.
Pollution has gone down exponentially since it started.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's some
So-
positives to take away from it,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously scary for people, not only because of the health circumstances, but financially and,
Yeah.
especially for people like us who are,
Right.
kind of, for the most part, self-employed. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of what we do. We're not totally independent contractors, but we're
Right.
somewhere in that realm,
Yeah.
But trying to take a positive aspect of it, it's not, at least I feel like for me, I've been learning to not totally be consumed with consumerism now, because you can't be.
Right.
You have to do other things to occupy your time.
Right.
So, and to be a responsible person in this particular circumstance.
Sure. Right. I just feel so blessed that if it were to happen to us, it happened to us in this day and age where I can still have somewhat of a business because I've been doing a lot of virtual stuff through Zoom here.
Sure.
So I have my class schedule as it was. I don't have 100% attendance there because there's some people who aren't comfortable with the technology of it.
Sure.
Of attending the class. But I have a lot of people who are there. I have a handful of my private clients that has continued to train through virtual. But if it was in the past, even 5 years ago, even 5 or 10 years ago, we may not have been able to do that. And I would have been 100% unemployed instead of feel like a part-timer, but I'm still having some sort of income generated. And not just for the income, but just for the connection with people. And that's what I'm telling my people, like, look, I know you may be uncomfortable with it, but you're getting together with a group of people that you're used to seeing. You might be seeing them on a screen, right? But you're still communicating and connecting with someone other than the people within your home.
Right.
And especially those who live by themselves. So, I mean, at least there's that too. We do have technology, I guess, on our side, I suppose.
That's one thing that I'm really happy about too, is I have a client base that on the whole is substantially older.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of them had, not a lot, but probably half had stopped coming prior to the stay-at-home order.
I had that too. Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to still, like right before we got on here, like an hour before, I sent a couple of them a text message just to say, hey, how you doing? And I've been doing that kind of weekly. And, these are people who are in their 80s and they're, otherwise they don't have a lot of people who come over, or they aren't comfortable with having people come over right now because they know that in their age group, they're more susceptible to the virus. So, that's, like you said, a few years ago, like we wouldn't have been able to do that. Like, obviously you can still make phone calls and things like that. And there was another lady who I talk to all the time who works with me once a week, and I see her every day in the gym because she's so, dedicated to it. And I talked to her for like an hour the other day on the phone. And, it's nice to just be able to talk to people who, aren't getting a lot of in-person visitors, if they are at all.
Right.
So that's one thing, and that we can all entertain ourselves to some degree too. Like you have Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and all this other stuff. Whereas, before you would just be stuck with the DVDs that you have because people didn't have Amazon Prime either and couldn't just order a movie if they wanted to and it'd be there in 2 days or whatever.
Yeah, but that's a good point.
This is true. I had a friend this morning that was texting me, and it's funny because he just, I guess he doesn't have kids. He's married, but he doesn't have kids, and he's like, man, so many excuses. He said, I just, when this is over, I hope it's not weird, but I'm going to give you a long embrace and I'm going to be a better friend. And I'm like, you've been a good friend. What are you talking about? He's like, nah, I haven't been. He's like, I think about trying to do stuff with you all the time and hang out. He said, but then I just blame it on work or having too much to do. And he said, that's BS. He's like, he said, I hadn't seen my niece in like a year, however long, because I'm always so busy. And he's like, I'm realizing that a lot of the stuff that I thought made me busy really isn't even there. I make it something in my life that doesn't need to be, and it gets in the way of the real thing. So I think for a lot of people, me included, it's created that awareness that there's a lot more to life. And we say it, we've said stuff like that, but never act on it. And I think now, I hope coming out of this, we'll all act on it a little bit more and live a little more genuine lives.
I hope so too. Yeah. I mean, I think like your friend, I think we all kind of, say, well, I'm busy or this. And, it does make us, I know for me, I'm not as good as I should be about keeping in touch with people who I don't see super frequently, that's something I've thought about for a long time that I'd like to get better at. And I think this is a good opportunity to do that. I've talked to a couple people who I hadn't spoken with in months since this had happened, just because it does kind of inspire you to say, you see that
people can catch this thing, and a lot of people are fortunately asymptomatic or they experience mild symptoms, but the ones who don't, I mean, it takes over quickly, you know.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it kind of inspires you to get a hold of people and get in contact with people and say, hey, you know, how are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need anything? And I think it's sort of given us a sense of community again, where we're in a culture right now that's super tribal and super divided. And, you know, that's another positive thing I think can come out of this, is that the whole world's sort of in this one together. You know,
Right.
there's not any separating from that fact.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think we've really ever seen. At least I
No.
haven't.
Not
So
not
it's-
globally, I don't feel
No,
like.
globally, no. It is very interesting, and it's very strange. And that's what was weird to me tonight, because I was on Zoom with probably 6 or 7 of my buddies, and one of them's in Tampa. I think the rest of them are in Atlanta. But it was weird because here we're starting to have to. Have you been to the stores today? You been to like Target or anywhere where they make you stand outside until so many come out?
No, I've been to Kroger, but I haven't been there at a time when they've been overrun with people, fortunately.
Well, it wasn't really even overrun, and that's what everybody like in Atlanta, Georgia, where they've had like 12,000 cases versus our 500. They're like, no, we just walk into Walmart
Well,
or
that's
Target.
probably why they have that many cases.
They might. Well, they also have 7 million people.
Well, they have more people.
But,
yeah.
I just think it's just, and I'm not saying I'm fine with it, but it's just, actually it's kind of nice in a way, but it's just wild the way we're living and the habits we're getting into. And, you know, in business you're in, 30 days of doing something, it changes you, right?
Absolutely.
If you do something for 30 days, good or bad, it kind of gets embedded in you. It kind of gets hardwired in you.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
And we're getting
I
into
hadn't thought about it from that perspective.
And there's some good things, I think, and there's some bad things. But the good things are maybe that a lot of restaurants, maybe a lot of places have changed the way they do things, and it'll be a healthier environment from a germ standpoint.
No, we live in America. We're going to go right back to the way we used to do things, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but it'll take at least a month or two.
So let me ask you guys this. What do you think after the initial wave of this is over and we start sort of reintegrating back into society? What do you think normal looks like?
Oh, gosh. I don't think.
I was talking about that.
Go ahead.
I was talking about that because I did a call because, you know, I'm in the insurance business, and I do consulting with like 100 agencies, and I deal with the regional folks for a lot of the insurance carriers like Travelers, Hartford, Liberty. Now I was doing a big call with one of the carriers the other day, just talking about the environment that we're experiencing with all of our agencies, and us and them, and they're saying, we're seeing people saying, yeah, if we're back May 1st, you know, and they say, okay, you're fine to go back to work. He said, yes, we will resume operations, but we're not opening. He said, there's a lot of agencies that will say, okay, we're going to be in the office, but we can continue to do things online for a month or two to make sure that everything's safe before we just let the public just flood into our offices and have people in and out that we don't know if they've been sick. We don't know if they were sick and not tested. We don't know if, you know, you don't know in these smaller communities. I've heard that places that were ordered to be shut down in some of these small communities in West Virginia just said, screw you, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's going to be a problem my opinion, that's going to crop up a little bit. Everything might seem fine, but then we're going to see, kind of like, didn't China have that? China was going to let they're going to let their pro basketball start back up. They're going to let people go back to work. And then all of a sudden they let them out, and boom, they had another little explosion and had to pull them back. So I don't know if that's where you're going, but what are your thoughts? What's normal to you?
I think that people are learning now that a lot of the stuff that we deem as being essential can be done online through stuff like Zoom. But at the same time, I think in a business like mine and Angie's, for instance, that interpersonal connection and that face-to-face communication and coaching, that you can't replicate that through online or through FaceTime or Zoom or anything like that. You can't do it because it does have a certain air of being impersonal.
Right.
When people get a fitness coach, or, they do physical therapy, which I think is still open, but is, they're like drastically have decreased their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that, I don't think you're ever going to be able to replace it person to person.
Yeah.
But as far as going back to normal, I have my reservations about, like you said, immediately going back to where like, we've quote unquote flattened the curve and now we go back and we just go back to doing. I don't think that's realistic because they've talked about like until we have a vaccine, it'll just surge again, whether it's after the summer when it's not hot anymore or, whatever the case may be. But my other worry is that this is only the first in a succession of things that could potentially happen that's virus related.
Mm-hmm.
And, those are the scariest ones because those aren't things we control. It's not like going to war, having bombs, or, mutually assured destruction as it was known back in the Cold War. Like, these aren't people versus people. This is a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder not only that, but even if they did say we could go back, like obviously people are going to be paranoid, especially the people who have contracted the virus. Those aren't the only people it's affected. I mean, it's affected, their families and anybody who's been close to them. And if you have somebody who's unfortunately caught it and had really bad symptoms toward it, like I think it's going to fundamentally change our perception of, what it is to interact with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that made me think about the other day I went to, I was at Kroger and I saw a guy I've known forever, a friend of mine, in the parking lot walking in. And normally we'd, like when I saw you in Kroger, you'd shake hands or you'd even almost hug, like grab, hands, pull each other in. And we kept at least 6 to 10 feet apart as we walked through Kroger and talked for a minute, didn't get near each other. And I thought, how is it going to be in May?
I think all of that'll
June?
go back.
Will we walk up and chest, you know what I mean?
Not right away.
I probably will, but it's.
I hugged Storm the other day. I'm not letting go of that. I'm an emotional person. I will tell you right now, unless you say you're sick, if you're wearing a mask, I might not come up to you, but I promise you this, when we get to go back out you can control what goes back to normal. If you want to walk around, if you want to walk around and be paranoid all the time, you go ahead and live a miserable life. In my opinion, when they say, okay, be sensible, wash your hands, you know what I mean? Be clean or whatever. When I go back out into the world, when I see my friend, if they're open for it, I'm going to hug you.
Well, that's what
So just beware, Matt. If I see you in Kroger when this is over, you're going to have to go like this if you don't want me to give you a big old hug. Because,
give her the Heisman.
I am telling you, I will not let this ruin the way that I am as a person. Yes, right now I'm guarded.
Neither.
Yes, right now I'm going to keep my distance because I'm told it's there and I'm told this. But when they say, okay, we're, like you said, flattening the curve, things are getting back to normal, still be careful. Heck no, I'm going to go back about my life. I only lived this life once, and I'm not going to let this let me affect how I'm going to live the rest of my life. Boom.
Go, girl.
Mic drop.
Preach it. Yeah, well, I agree. I'm not even talking about you or your personality or mine.
I think most people will go back.
I think most will. I just think there might be a little curve.
There will, definitely. I think there'll be a point of time, like Matt was saying, where, I don't think it'll be May 1st that we'll get to go back. But I'm just saying, whenever they say, okay, let's open back up the nail salons, let's open back up the hair salons and stuff like that. I think I don't think it'll be a flood of people that are like, oh, okay, here we go. Because I think you will have like the elderly who are still scared, or the people who have compromised immune systems that are like, I still don't trust it. I'm still nervous. And I get that. But I think the average person will slowly go back out into the world. And at first they'll be very cautious. Like, I'll go to the gym, but will I wipe the stuff down now before I use it? probably for a long time. Will that eventually go away? Yeah, I think it will. I think in 2 years we'll be back to like what? Oh, remember that coronavirus?
I think that goes into the habits we're developing now. Though. I
So
mean, it's going to be natural to wipe things down. It's going to be natural to wash your hands. It's going to be
sure,
natural.
it should be.
Well, it should be,
Yeah.
but I'm saying it's on another level for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, it's on another. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I
yeah.
have always washed my hands, but
Right.
I didn't wash them this much.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
in my own house where I haven't been anywhere, you know, I'm still washing my
Oh,
hands.
I mean, I'm going
When
through.
I walk through the sink, by the sink, I'm like washing my hands.
I'm going through twice a day with like a Clorox spray and a rag and wiping down all the handles that we use every day, twice a day. And we aren't going anywhere other than we go to the store to get what we need. But so, yeah, I mean, that stuff has changed, but that'll die down too. So that's a long answer to your question. Sorry.
Well, I also think it's gonna depend on the density of the area we live in, right? Like
Yes.
the density of the population. Like we're fortunate, and I think even though we are one of the states that has the least cases, and obviously part of that is because we haven't had the tests here and things like that, and that's why it took so long. But I also think it's because I read a great article. I can't remember what site it was on, but it talked about us being one of the least dense states in the union. And that's why, because we were already practicing social distancing, because we just live further apart, and we don't get together like that as much as other places do. Like in somewhere like New York, I think it's totally possible that they could have develop more of a culture like Japan has, where they wear masks when they're out anyway. You know, they do. They don't shake hands. You know, they bow to acknowledge each other. Like that's one of the reasons why Japan has not had the dearth of cases that we have as a country, because they were already doing that. There's a picture that's been circulating online now of their parliament, and their parliament, they all wear masks when they get together.
Interesting.
Yeah, to vote. So I think it's possible that in bigger cities that are more dense, like New York City, where people are just on top of each other all the time, and most people live in apartments and stuff like that, I think it's absolutely possible that there could be a major cultural shift. But I think places like here that are more rural, that things will go back more or less sort of normal, unless we would have an influx of people, which I can't see.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. And the time frame on that, who knows? And I think it will be a slow little trickle. But yeah, I definitely, somebody said the other day that this is the new way, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree that this is the new normal. I totally do not agree with it. I think that it is temporarily the new normal. Yes, temporarily, but it is definitely, I mean, things like this, like maybe not globally, that have happened before, and people have thought that this is the way it's going to be for the rest of your life. And it's just, if you make it that way, then yeah, maybe, but it's not going to be here forever.
Most
You know what I mean?
people don't think that way. I think most people I've talked to, they're ready to get back out there and go to the gym. They're ready, and when they can, they're going to. They're just going to. 90% of them are the gym goers. When they get a chance to go back to the gym, and so they say it's okay to open the doors, they're going back to the gym.
Yeah.
When they can go to their favorite bar, they're going to go to their favorite bar. It's going to happen as soon as they tell us we can do it.
But I do think more precaution will be used.
There will be.
Yeah,
and it'll
for
be
sure.
by the bars. It'll be by the people.
And
it'll
that's
be
a good
by
thing.
me. It's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
In this simulation, we have the virus.
See, yes, there we go. Circling it back around.
You know what?
I like that.
Every time I look, and I was going to say this earlier, ever since I've listened to this stuff and read about it more and more, the multiverse, the simulation stuff, every time I saw it the other day, a cluster of ants on the ground, I thought that's what we are to someone. Those ants. Someone looking down at this.
Do you think?
They're genius. Ants are genius within the, if you study them and look at them and what they do.
Oh, yeah, they're worker. They have
they're
a whole.
just like us in a way. We're just the simulators. We're up here watching
that's where
them,
you lose
and
me.
we can put them in their little ant farms, and we can put these in these ant farms, and we can just,
I'm not all about that. All right, one more question before we let you go. We were talking about mushrooms. I didn't mean to keep you this long. Sorry. We were talking about mushrooms earlier, and I coincidentally, Jeff and I,
gosh.
no, I have to ask him if he knows because I've never heard of this, and I need to know because you're the only other person really that I've talked to today, like from here. What was it called? It was a mushroom that they say is only around for a short amount of time, and if you can get your hands on them, you need to get them and cook them. They're called molly moochers.
Yeah.
Molly moocher.
You've
Yep.
heard of a Molly Moocher?
You know, it's funny. Steph's parents go and look for them. And she literally just brought this up last weekend. I've known about them maybe 5 days. So
What?
it's super, super weird that you bring this up because I just learned about them last weekend.
See? Isn't that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, they look all
I learned about
spongy.
it this morning.
Huh?
They look all spongy.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can only find them by certain trees. And then if you get them, they're really good. They're good, but you have to cook them. But anyway, it popped up on my news thing this morning and I was like, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, prior to that, I'd never heard of it.
I've lived here all my life. I've never heard that.
No.
Ever.
But apparently they're big in more rural part of the state.
Yes.
You got to find something to do.
That's right. Go hunt for molly moochers.
That's
Exactly.
I thought it immediately when I saw it. I thought that looks like a mushroom that could get you high.
No, I don't think that's what
Is
it's
it
for.
psychedelic?
No, that's not what it's for. You eat them. You cook them. So we were saying, we're going to call up, Pies and Pints and order a cheese, a pepperoni pizza and ask if they can put some Molly Moochers on there.
I wonder if they do. I
They
wonder
would
if
do.
anybody eats their pizza with that on
Yeah, I don't know.
it.
Well, Matt, we'll let you go. We didn't want to keep you this long, but thanks for joining us and talking with us. Interesting. He's been dying to talk about this topic and we've been wanting to get you on, but one thing after the other happened. And like I keep saying to every guest we have on, it takes a pandemic to get things actually done. You know what I mean?
I might get a nerd notes together and do it.
Yes.
I might
Yes,
do that. That way it could be much.
We've barely just toe in the water, my man.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have your number, but I'll text.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
give it
man.
to you. You all compare notes and we'll do it again.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Appreciate
All
you
right.
guys.
Thanks, Matt. You
Yes,
have a
sir.
great weekend.
You too. Appreciate it.
All righty.
Matt, it's great to see you, man.
Bye.
Great to see you, man. Bye.
Poor Callie.